What's going on, guys? I wanted to do a pretty quick update on something that we've been working on the channel, which if you read the title, I'm sure you probably already figured out what it is. About 4 months ago, I decided that it was time for me to put together a rifle that would basically allow me to go do all the things that I genuinely enjoyed doing at a moment's notice. Rain or shine, cold or hot. And those things are, in no particular order: long-range hunting, long-range shooting, and extreme long-range shooting. So those are the things that I genuinely enjoy doing. And if I'm going to grab a rifle and go do anything, it's going to be one of those more than likely, with the exception of maybe some predator hunting, but that's a whole other story. But what I ended up having to do was sit down and come up with a pretty long laundry list of attributes that I wanted out of the rifle and the cartridge itself. So the first of those being pretty long barrel life. Now, I know most of you will say, well, barrels are like tires on a car. You know, they're going to wear out. You're going to have to replace them. Yes, that is totally true. I agree. In 2024, where you're contending with anywhere from 12 to 16-month lead times, barrel life is something that you need to take into consideration. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is nowadays, at least for right now. Hopefully that will change soon. Also, because of the fact that this rifle is going to get shot, and it's going to get shot a lot. So barrel life, again, still a pretty important consideration. Now, the next of those would be extremely good components. So I wanted to have very high quality brass, ultra temp stable powders, you know, the works. Shoot really high BC bullets at a pretty respectful velocity. So sitting down and going over everything, the more I looked at it, the more the 30-06 just made sense. The only thing I wasn't sure of was how much performance we could actually get out of it. If you look through like the Hornady manual or even the Hodgdon's reloading website, their loads are fairly watered down, and I understand, you know, why they have to do that. I get it, but it's really kind of sad whenever you see some of the numbers that they're posting and claiming that certain cartridges can do with certain bullets, whenever in fact they can do a lot more. But I wasn't sure about that to begin with. So my intention was to buy a complete custom action. I already had a barrel that I was going to use in it, and go ahead and try it and see what I could make it do. But instead of going ahead and wasting that barrel, if it didn't work out the way I was hoping it would, and going through and getting a whole custom action, I ran across a pretty good deal on a Remington 700 long range chambered in 30-06. I said, cool. It's not very bad on price, and it's got all the attributes already that I was mostly looking for. So it had a pretty long barrel, 26 inches, 1 in 10 twist. So I figured I would pick one up and at least give it a shot and see what I could actually get the 30-06 itself as a cartridge to do. Not so much worried about the rifle, but more or less the cartridge. So I picked one of these up and I brought it home. I checked the overall length with the bullet I was planning on using. And having worked with a lot of 30 calibers over the years, I knew about what to expect in terms of hand loads by how much I could move the bullet out. So if I could extend the bullet out X amount, I knew I could get about X amount more powder in there, which should yield X amount more velocity. So anyway, brought the rifle home, realized that it did not have a threaded muzzle from the factory, even though Remington's website claims it. Kind of pissed about that one, but that's neither here nor there. So I brought it home, checked the overall length with the bullets I was going to be using, which is the 208 grain Hornady ELD match. And I got some numbers Then I took the gun over to the gunsmith, let him thread the muzzle for it, and put the muzzle adapter for my Thunder Beast arm suppressor on there so I could run it and do some testing. So got the rifle back about a week later, went and picked it up and started doing some hand loads for it. Now, while the gun was at the gunsmith, like I said, I actually sat down and figured it up, and I still have the paper here, without ever having fired a single round out of that thing, exactly what I should be able to make it do. And I actually landed within 1/10 of a grain and 10 feet per second. It actually did more with less powder. So that was pretty good. So it's pushing the 208 grain Hornady ELDs at 2,811 feet per second. What we were not expecting to see was the level of consistency that we saw out of it. Over a 5-shot string, we had a 1.1 foot per second extreme spread. For powder, we're using H4350. For cases, we are using Lapua 30-06 brass, CCI BR2 primers, and our overall length, at least in this particular rifle, is 3.480. So that's our overall length for the 208 ELDs in this particular rifle. And we were able to get them to 2,811 feet per second with a 1.1 foot per second extreme spread. That's pretty good. That's actually very good. In the summertime, it would take about 27 mils for this thing as it sits to reach 2,000 yards. So there's your ELR part of it. And it would get there, I think, was somewhere around 1,000 feet per second and I think 500 foot-pounds or something like that. So it should still throw up dirt pretty good, and we should see a pretty good splash from it, unless it's just rained. All right, standard ranges, or more typical ranges, shooting it out to 1,000 yards. You're going to be looking at about 8 mils, and it's still going to have at 1,000 yards, I want to say it was 1,600 feet per second, and about 1,200 foot-pounds of energy. Now, really, really cold temps, long-range hunting in the wintertime, you're still looking at around, I think it was 1,800 feet per second at 800 yards and around 1,500 foot-pounds of energy. So, and I know what a lot of you might say, that, okay, well, the ELD match is going to suck for long range, or it's going to suck for hunting. And you're right. At short ranges, it does. It really does. The bullets are thin jackets. They come apart very, very easily if they hit with too high of an impact velocity. Where that switches around, though, is whenever the bullet has shed a good bit of its velocity and it comes into contact with something around 1,800 to 2,000 feet per second. They actually do a very good job. And most match bullets actually are going to be the same way. Most all of them, Bergers included, Hornadys. But if you shoot them at something that's very, very close and it has a very high impact velocity, yes, the bullet is going to come all to pieces. It's not going to perform very well at super short distances, like 100 yards or something like that. So that's pretty good. That's actually incredible that this thing is doing what we're getting out of it. You know, you're looking at, basically, if you go through this Hornady book, which actually I'll go ahead and flip it open real quick and I'll show you. So if you go to the 300 Win Mag load in the Hornady book for the 208 grain ELD, let's see, where is it at? It's 190, 180, 200, 208. here we are. So their highest loads, I don't know if you'll even be able to see it. Their highest loads for a 300 Win Mag is 2,850 feet per second. I think that's not showing you the right one. Yeah. So yeah, we're only 40 feet per second off of a 300 Win Mag with substantially more barrel life, much less powder being used. So I'm actually very, very pleased with it. You know, funny enough, whenever I was 9 years old, I started loading ammo with my uncle, and the very first thing we ever hand loaded was the 30-06. And I never thought that it could do what I've seen it do here in the past few days. So before the rifle leaves and gets turned into something a little bit different, we've got a pretty nice barrel that's going to go into it. We got a Macmillan A5 that's going to go in with a detachable mag system. And I hope that here before long, we're going to do some more videos with it. Oh, and also got a different scope I'm going to stick on it too. So I'm going to take that Burris XTR3 off, and I'm going to stick this 4-20 Night Force ATACR on it. I think it'll be a really good combo, and it should actually end up with about 35 mils of up adjustment or somewhere in that ballpark once it's zeroed at 100. So it'll be able to dial well out past 2,000 yards. The way it sits, which it's on it's got a 45 MOA Burris, 45 MOA Badger Ordnance rail on it right now. So, but yeah, I would say that the 30-06 is probably more relevant now than it ever has been. Both myself and my dad and my uncle never thought that it would be able to push bullets that heavy, that fast, with still no pressure signs. So initially I was planning on stepping up until I found out where exactly pressure was. And it just so happened that it hit that target velocity, and I said, you know what, that's good enough, because it was already started. It was is compressing H-4350. So, but still no pressure signs. No signs of pressure whatsoever. Bolt lift was fine. Case heads looked fine. So I was pleased. So we're gonna go with the 30-06 in 2024 of all things. It's crazy to think about this thing as being as old as it is. So for me, I never really associated it as a military cartridge, even though that's what it was designed for. It had long since been out of military use whenever I was born. So, but the fact that it came out the same year as the Ford Model N, go look up a Ford Model N and see what it looked like. The fact that this cartridge came out that same year is incredible. To put that in perspective, it came out 3 years before the Titanic was ever built, and 6 years after it sank. Or 6 years before it sank, I'm sorry. So yeah, before they ever started work on the Titanic, 3 years before they ever started work on it, this thing had come out, and 6 years before the Titanic sank. So that's pretty incredible, and I can understand now why it's hung around for as long as it really has. I have definitely got newfound respect for the 30-06. So, but anyway, I'll do an update whenever it gets back from the gunsmith, and hopefully we'll do some range videos. I'll keep you guys updated. It's going to be about a month or two, but I'll be back soon.